The night was colder than usual, the kind that seeps through the thickest coat and settles deep in your bones. Rain danced on the windows of a black Rolls-Royce gliding silently through the heart of the city. Inside, Alexander Reed, the man everyone called the Cold CEO, sat alone, eyes fixed on the blurred lights outside, heart colder than the glass he hid behind. He had everything: money, fame, power. Yet behind that perfectly tailored suit and emotionless face was a man who had stopped believing in love, stopped trusting in kindness, and stopped letting anyone get close. Years of betrayal had frozen him. A childhood spent in silence, a youth filled with ambition, and an adulthood marked by loneliness had turned him into the kind of man who measured worth in numbers, not emotions. But tonight, against every instinct, he agreed to something he swore he'd never do again: one last blind date. Not because he believed in love, but because his dying mother had whispered her last wish with trembling lips: "Promise me you'll give love one last chance." He kept that promise, not out of hope, but duty. What he didn't know was that fate was waiting at the corner table of a small restaurant, in the form of a girl who would change everything. Backhand index pointing right. If you believe in kindness, forgiveness, and second chances, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to I Am Kindness Corner. Your support helps stories like this reach more hearts. The restaurant was a quiet one, tucked between a flower shop and a bookstore. It smelled of fresh coffee, cinnamon, and rain, the kind of place that reminded people what warmth felt like. Alexander entered, his presence immediately drawing attention. The staff straightened their posture, conversations hushed. Dressed in a black coat and calm arrogance, he looked like a man carved out of winter itself. He checked his watch, sighed, and took a seat by the window. The date was already 10 minutes late. Typical, he thought. Another waste of time. Then she walked in. She wasn't what he expected. Not glamorous, not dressed in designer brands, not the type of woman who tried to impress. Her clothes were simple: a soft beige sweater, worn jeans, and a small umbrella dripping water on the floor. But her eyes, warm, kind, and alive, made the whole room seem lighter. She looked around nervously, clutching a small notebook, before her gaze landed on him. For a moment, time stilled. Something unexplainable flickered in his chest, but he brushed it off. Her name was Clara. She was a teacher, barely making ends meet, living in a small apartment above the bakery she worked at part-time. Her friend had set her up on this blind date as a joke. "Maybe the universe owes you something nice," they'd said. She didn't expect to meet the Alexander Reed, the man whose face appeared in magazines and headlines. And yet, here she was, sitting across from him, trying not to feel out of place. The beginning was awkward. He spoke little, his words measured, his tone distant. She, on the other hand, tried to fill the silence with small talk, gentle laughter, and stories about her students who couldn't pronounce hippopotamus. At first, he didn't care. But as the minutes passed, he found himself listening, truly listening. There was something about her, her honesty, her unfiltered kindness, the way she looked at people as if she could see the good in them, even when they couldn't see it themselves. She didn't ask about his money or status. She asked about him, what made him happy, what kind of music he listened to, whether he ever danced in the rain. Simple questions, but ones no one had asked him in years. When dinner ended, he found himself not wanting it to. She smiled, thanked him for his time, and said something that stayed in his mind long after she left: "Maybe love isn't about finding someone perfect, Alexander. Maybe it's about learning to be real again." That night, he couldn't sleep. He replayed her words over and over, trying to understand why a stranger's voice could echo louder than all his success. Days passed, and he found excuses to see her again: business meeting near her school, a coincidental visit to the bakery where she worked. She always smiled when she saw him, though she never asked why he kept coming. Slowly, the cold in him began to thaw. He started noticing little things: how she treated every customer with the same warmth, even the rude ones, how she bought lunch for a homeless boy outside, how her laughter had a way of making even his office feel alive when he remembered it. She didn't have much, but she had something he'd lost a long time ago: peace. One evening, he asked her how she managed to stay kind in a world that had hurt her so much. She told him her mother had once said, "Darkness doesn't go away when you curse it. It fades when you light a candle." She'd made it her mission to be that candle. Something inside Alexander broke that night: the walls, the masks, the years of bitterness. For the first time, he wanted to be more than rich. He wanted to be good. But fate, as always, had its own cruel plans. A month later, Clara stopped answering his calls. The bakery was closed for a week, then 2. He sent flowers, messages, even visited her school, but no one had seen her. Panic clawed at him. When he finally found her, it was at the hospital. She was sitting on a bed by the window, pale but smiling. Leukemia. She'd known for months but hadn't told him. She didn't want pity or sadness. She just wanted to make someone's life a little brighter before her time ran out. Alexander felt like the world had been ripped from beneath his feet. For the first time, the man who could buy anything realized that money couldn't save the one thing that mattered most. He spent every day by her side, reading to her, bringing her flowers, holding her hand during treatments. And in those fragile moments, she taught him what love really meant: not grand gestures, not perfect moments, but quiet strength, compassion, and choosing someone even when you know you might lose them. As her condition worsened, she asked him for one last promise: "When I'm gone, don't close your heart again. Be kind. Love someone. Help someone. Live." He nodded through tears, unable to speak. She smiled weakly and said, "See? You're already warmer than you think." She passed away quietly one rainy morning, the same kind of rain that had fallen the night they met. He buried her in a garden near his family home, a place filled with sunlight and wildflowers. But he didn't return to his cold mansion afterward. Instead, he left his company in the hands of his trusted partner and began something new: the Clara Foundation, a home for orphan children and families struggling with illness. People called it charity, but to him, it was survival. Each act of kindness kept her memory alive. Each life he touched felt like a heartbeat of hers still echoing through him. Months turned into years, and though he never stopped missing her, he found peace in her promise. The once cold millionaire became known for something entirely different: compassion. Journalists wrote stories about how the ruthless CEO who used to fire employees without reason now paid for their children's education. How he personally visited hospitals, sat with patients, and donated anonymously to countless causes. Every anniversary of her passing, he visited her grave with a bouquet of lilies and whispered, "You were right, Clara. Love didn't leave. It just changed form." And perhaps somewhere, in a world beyond sight, she smiled. Backhand index pointing right. If this story touched your heart, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to I Am Kindness Corner. Your engagement helps us spread stories of love, hope, and second chances across the world. Before you go, speech balloon, please comment below. Would you still give love a chance after being broken, like Alexander did? Or would you protect your heart forever? Sometimes the people who seem the coldest are the ones who once loved too deeply. And sometimes, one unexpected soul can melt a lifetime of frost. Because love doesn't always stay, but it always changes something. And that change can warm the coldest heart.